thought I'm writing about the Beatles, and I was writing only the other day. You just prompted me, Shane, mentioning, I don't know why, She Loves You. Ya, ya, ya.
That's Peter Sellers, isn't it?
Is it? Ah, right. That's where it came from. Anyway, it's been described as the most explosive pop song ever.
By who?
Went down like a bomb. A guy who's sadly no longer with us, who's written about every Beatles song. You may know the book. Ian MacDonald?
No.
Goes through every song with every recording, every date, every musician, pretty much.
Did he die of boredom?
No, of being too interested, you rotter. Anyway, sadly, that's got nothing whatever to do with this week's Comedy Slab. I'm Adrian Lacey in the southeast of England. He's up there in Liverpool. No, he isn't. He's in Bromley. He is a Bromley, I should say. Shane is in the Midlands. Come in, please, Shane O'Connor.
I can't help it. I'm a natural-born Brummy.
You are. You didn't pull that particular lever, did you? Sorry, folks, that's a reference to Yellow Submarine. Google it! As you would say.
Who alive today doesn't know what or who or where Yellow Submarine is? Everybody does, don't they?
Well, do they know? Not everyone is as nerdy as thee and me, remembering the line, don't pull that lever! Can't help it, I'm a born lever puller.
All I can say is, in the town where I was born,
there was a man.
They all knew it. I can't believe that. But you're right. I mean, this is the world we live in now, isn't it? Sometimes this world just becomes a bit too much for me.
Well, there are some young people I think we could forgive for not knowing all the lines in Yellow Submarine.
But you'd know what a Yellow Submarine was, wouldn't you?
Well, I'd know one if I saw one. Weren't they on Thunderbirds? Isn't that Thunderbirds 4?
No, it was. It was a Yellow Submarine, I suppose. Yeah, 4. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that's no coincidence, I should say.
I never really thought about it before, but yeah, you're right. I'd have to check out the years, but yeah.
What a terrible world where you never even thought about the Yellow Submarine in Thunderbirds. Ooh,
that's what I said.
I'm offended.
Google it.
I think I'm going to send back my MBE.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about the Beatles. You may or may not be relieved to learn we are talking about comedy. We put a different comedy each week on the notional slab of comedy. We prod it about, see who salutes, dissect it, stick the scalpel in, and then at the end of the show, we each give said comedy a mark out of 5, tot it up to a mark out of 10. You can play along at home or wherever you are. Have you played Wordle yet, by the way, talking of playing along?
No, I've got this kind of.
Can't believe what the world's coming to.
I've got this condition where I'm
lazy.
The more popular something is, the less I want to know about it. And I just think, oh no, it's not for me. Not for people like me. That.
So, how popular is this week's comedy we're slabbing? Before you slurp your tea, I can see you on Skype.
This is very. I thought it was.
So you won't like it then? By your own lights.
Well, I wouldn't admit to it. So maybe it's all a ruse.
A ruse. Well, many things you wouldn't admit to. Anyway, it is indeed 30 Rock we're slabbing this week. Series 1, Episode 2. And why is it Episode 2 and not Episode 1? Well, we're perverse fools. That's what we are, essentially.
But if you're going to be a fool, be a perverse one. That's
exactly. There's no point being a straight fool, is there? I mean, who wants one of those?
Exactly.
But just before we get our scalpels out and sharpen them up, stop it, let us have a piece of comedy news. And I'm going to blame you for this one. The couple who are blaming... Now, we're not making light. We wish to make that very clear about some terrible goings on, even as we speak, in Ukraine. And who knows where we'll be by the time this podcast goes up. But it's a comedy spin-off from that. Shane, what's the story?
Yeah. Sudoku as well. That's another one I won't have in the house.
Nor should you.
Well, it was. Do you know, it's a weird one, this, because I kind of read the headline and I thought, I really came down on the side of the couple until I read their email that they sent the guy who runs the comedy club. The headline is Blackpool Comedy Club said it won't bow down after a customer demands refund due to the Ukraine-Russia conflict.
Mm.
And I thought, that's a bit, you kind of go through a whole roller coaster of emotions with this one. And I thought, okay, well, that's an interesting excuse.
So what was your original thought then? Sorry, diving in on the basis of the headline alone.
My original thought on the headline alone, I thought, I can't see how, if you live in Hull, you would be troubled or concerned by a trip to Blackpool to go to a comedy show because of any conflict in the Ukraine. And then there was a line in it that's, hang on, there was a line in it where they said in their email, and the guy who owns the comedy club, Ryan Gleeson, shared all these emails on social media, and it started off and it said, my husband and I had planned a trip to Blackpool this weekend. We got tickets for the show, blah blah blah. And I spoke to somebody called Rob, and this is where it all starts to get a little bit nasty because it puts brackets, if that's even his real name. I mean, if you're going to make up a name for a start, you're not going to use something as mundane as Rob, are you? You're going to go, oh no, my name is Tarquinetta. You know what I mean? Or something like that. You'd make it stick out, wouldn't you, really? But anyway, so they were saying they wanted a full refund. And it said, we're old or we're elderly or something like that. Due to event, it's not safe for us to travel. Oh, we're both retired. That's what they said. And I thought, oh, what a shame, that they feel a bit scared and vulnerable and they're retired and they live in Hull. And they didn't want to make such a long, because Hull to Blackpool is it's a good few hours, isn't it, in the car, that one? It's even longer if you walk.
Cross country, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. And I thought, oh, I feel a bit sorry for them now. Aren't they being a bit mean? But then did you see they went into like this full-on rant? Just like
as soon as it starts involving capital letters,
yes,
you worry, don't you?
Which any fool knows he's shouting in type, isn't it? Really?
Absolutely, yeah.
But they said that it said, he showed me some so-called terms and conditions, which I did not read when I booked the tickets a few weeks ago, like nobody does. And nowhere in them does it say anything about no refunds for a war. As it is not your so-called terms and conditions, I am legally allowed a full, capital letters, refund. I will take this to trading standards if not refunded in 24 hours. I mean it in capital letters.
I don't think any of us doubts it, given the capital letters. I mean, if they used italics or underlining or bold, that would be a different story. But capital letters, I mean, you take seriously, don't you?
Nobody uses italic anymore, do they?
So not even
not for what it
Italians.
was no, not even for what it was intended for. Do you know what I mean? But
what was it intended for?
Well, you know, just be saucy, isn't it? Everybody knows that. If you, it's a saucy suggestion if you put it in italics.
Is it because it leans to the right?
Yeah,
like you politically.
Oh, hello, like that kind of thing. But yeah, it's funny how you could go through a roller coaster of emotions with this thing. I just thought it was quite interesting. And you're right. I mean, not making light of the situation, a terrible situation that we see the world, let's be honest, facing. You just kind of think, how do you sit there and draw a line between the two things and then you going to Blackpool? I don't get it at all, really. It was some of the replies that the guy who owns the club sent back, and he said, despite offering multiple resolutions to your problem, you persisted in calling our staff member a liar, swearing at him and asking him if he masturbates to a poster of Putin.
That's a punchline and a half, isn't it, really? Well, and what was the answer? Did he?
It is. I mean, it's a life lesson, isn't it? Of how. I mean, it's almost like a parody of the real life situation, but it's almost like a life lesson in how not to escalate things too quickly because you lose all credibility. And anyone who was on your side, like I was for a brief moment, I kind of thought, they're retired, they're old, they're a bit and they're a bit worried, they're a bit concerned. We shouldn't be mocking them. You then find that some of the things that they've actually are well worthy of mocking, but there you are.
Yes. I think I'm going to struggle with that image of the poster of Putin and what's going on underneath it.
Yeah. Although they never have trouble sticking it to the wall, do they? That's the thing.
Oh.
No, because they've got sellotape on it. That's what I meant.
Oh,
What's the
right.
matter with you?
I thought you were being blue tackless. Moving swiftly on, as we surely must. Right, where's that leave us, or where's that begin us? So, 30 Rock is a reference to a building. We touched on this last week, but let's, for the benefit of those not Au Fait or Tina Fey, should I say?
Good.
See what I did there? Not Au Fait with this show. Little bit of explanation. But you can actually go one better than just explain it in words, because you've been there. 30 Rock is a reference to a building which is 30 Rockefeller Place, is it? Rockefeller?
Rockefeller Plaza, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you were actually there, did you say, having a coffee outside?
We've had dinner out there a couple of times. Really expensive it is, I think, because of the view more than anything. You probably recognise it in films because in films, at Christmas, they have an ice rink.
Oh, yes, that one, yes.
At the bottom, an outdoor ice rink, and they do a lot of films have done a lot of scenes there kind of thing. I'm a big fan of Art Deco, and I think it's a wonderful building because this is 1930s architecture at its finest, but, multi-storey buildings, an amazing thing.
A bit drafty at the foot of it, though, isn't it?
With all that, how do you mean?
Well, I mean, tall buildings generate a lot of drafts.
Not too bad, no. Well, in New York, I mean, you tend to, it'll have your head off anyway when the wind blows because it's on a grid system. The first time I ever went to New York, the first thing I did was buy a hat. Seriously, because we went in November. We went in November. No, I bought a woolly hat because I thought I can't cope with this.
No, just drafty for those of us with reduced follicle counts.
Yes.
And this actually is a show that's really, it's come out of the imagination of Tina Fey, but off the back of her working as a writer on Saturday Night Live. And I rather think anything in this show is not necessarily exaggerated, having worked on numerous TV entertainment shows. But I mean, the lack of originality... Oh, hang on. It's my novel in which I have a narrator who's a writer on a comedy show. But I swear it's not inspired by 30 Rock, or not consciously. Maybe it was unconscious. Because actually this episode, this is only going to reinforce my reputation for being someone who only watches one episode of a series. But I had seen one episode of 30 Rock before. Guess which episode it was?
No, it wasn't this one, was it?
It was this very one.
Oh,
and imagine my surprise. Although I did need a memory refresher, which was useful to watch it again in recent days. But yes, so I can't, even now, having watched that in the past and having watched it for this show, and that being years apart, I still can only claim to have watched one episode of 30 Rock, which is this one, Series 1, Episode 2 of 30 Rock. And before I go any further, the production credits for that go in 3 different directions. There's a credit for Broadway Video, Little Stranger Inc., and some small cottage industry. I don't know what it's doing there. NBC Universal. Never heard of them. But they get mentioned, actually, in the show, don't they? So it's life imitating art. Anyway, so putting aside the fact you've had a meal not once but twice, I think, outside the 30 Rock building, what did you think when I said I'd put the show on the slab?
Well, I think I mentioned last week briefly that this is kind of one that I've been I'd earmarked, if you like, for in my own personal. Oh, I must watch that kind of thing. And for whatever reason, I don't really know why. I still don't know why. I never got round. I still haven't got round to watching it. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it because I thought, well, at least this way, I'll know one way or the other, won't I now? And I'll either want to proceed or I think, oh no, I don't fancy that at all.
So I've forced your hand in this situation.
My hand, yeah, definitely.
Okie dokie. Well, look, let's have the first of 2 audio clips and how to set the scene. So it's a fast-moving thing. It gives you some of the feeling of the energy of a show. But there's an ongoing show called The Girly Show with, is it Gemma? Jenna, sorry. Jenna is the star of said show. Or is she the star now? Because she's usurped by a guy who supposedly has got Hollywood credentials. I'm imagining he's come up the rap route. It's a black star who arrives with his entourage, and he seems to have the sort of some of the rhythms of a rap artist in terms of the way he talks and moves, if that's not too much stereotyping. But imagine Jenna's feelings at being usurped in this way. Anyway, it's Alec Baldwin is the big name in this show, and it's his voice we hear first. It's a sort of payoff from the end of the previous scene where the Tina Fey character has got into a certain degree of conflict. So let's hear that clip now.
Lemon, to tread lightly is your job. My job is to keep Tracy Jordan happy.
Girls.
Let's save it for Mr. Jordan.
Studio 6H is where we do the Girly Show. Did y'all see Tracy Jordan make a special appearance the other night? Wasn't that exciting? That is what we in the show business like to call a cameo. Hey, this is the star of the Girly Show, Jenna Maroney.
Hi. Thank you.
How you feel, NBC Talk? Because you look good like a solid gold candy bar. Who that picture?
Where else you have those piercings on your body?
This is it, everybody. Here he comes.
Hey, no, stop. It's only Jenna.
All right, it's just Jenna.
How you doing, Jenna?
Okay, I mean, granted, Tracy Jordan has some commercial appeal, but within his remunerative body of work, there's just nothing of value.
I got really confused, Artie, because I didn't realise that they were talking about Tracy before it became apparent that he was a man.
Yes.
And so when he came in, I was like, kind of, so who's this guy now?
Yeah.
and then the band struck up that they said, oh, it's all right, it's only Jenna. They were there to play Tracy in, weren't they, and say, welcome to the station kind of thing.
Name that tune that they were playing.
It was Celebration.
Yeah.
Cool and the Gang. Yeah.
Uncool and the Gang, as I think they became at that point.
I'm so slow, I have to sing it through. But I mean, in fairness, when people ask me my name, I have to sing Happy Birthday right till the end to figure out my name. So shall I give you a headline?
It's funny you should say that, because I was about to ask. I didn't need any prompting.
Sure, I'll give you a headline to line your head. Mine is this week, and I'm a simple man. This is a simple headline. I'm a simpleton.
Comment.
And my headline simply was 30 rocks my world.
Oh, I thought you might have just stopped at 30 rocks for economy.
Yeah, I thought, why have two when four will do?
Well, you've never been known to cut back on your word count, have you? Any more than I have.
Just blew me away, this thing did.
Really?
Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
I mean, for early on in a series as well, episode 2 of the first series as this is, you kind of normally expect things to warm up a bit, don't you? Or need to have a bit of time to warm up. But I just thought, well, if this is what this series is like, what on earth is the rest of it like? Because the Fairview series, were you a bit sort of hesitant when it's about TV, when it's TV comedy writing about TVs, because it can all get a little bit introspective.
That's a massive danger from page one, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
So yes, I had that reservation, and also this doesn't sound good, doesn't make me sound good, but there's a worry, maybe a particular worry about the way America treats it, because there's enough self-congratulation in American culture anyway, and then TV people add on another layer of self-congratulation and introspection, narcissism, all those long words, but essentially being up their own fundaments. But having said that, and having worked on British TV entertainment shows, are we any different over here? Probably not that much. Not particularly.
Probably got the same amount of weirdos. They're just a bit quieter.
Could be that. They know when to bite their tongue, but they're still weird. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Got to watch them.
Got to watch them. You got to watch them. I really like. Go on. What were your thoughts? I mean, can
I get you to elaborate a bit more? Because you haven't really said why you like it so much. I will happily answer your question in a moment, but I want to hear from you first.
I mean, why didn't I like it? I mean, I loved the writing. I loved the casting. I mean, anything with Alec Baldwin in. I mean, again, as a parent of a 4 and a 2-year-old, you may be familiar with the film Boss Baby.
Hang on, I'm not a parent of a 2 or a 4-year-old, or indeed of an any-year-old.
I do know that you like to go and watch kids' films at the cinema, though. That's
a separate story. But
that's a hobby. And having watched it again and again and again and again and again and again and again, I just want to give you some indication of just how repetitive this is. And again and again and again, which is what 4-year-olds tend to do.
Yes.
In fact, my son So resistant is he to moving off that track that we actually got him Boss Baby 2, the sequel, and he watched 4 minutes of it and went, "No, I want the original one back on again." So that was that.
Did you say, "Don't be silly, you know you want the new one"?
Yes.
I want that one.
Yeah, he was a bit like that. And that's the reason I tell that story is because Alec Baldwin does the voice of one of the characters in that.
I was guessing that. You took a while to reveal that, but I think the audience were fortunately ahead of you because we have a bright audience.
Hopefully.
Opposites attract.
And so, I just think he's just such a talented guy, such a talented actor. Obviously, withstanding all the other incidents with gunfire and stuff.
At the moment, yes, going through as we speak, I guess.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I love him. Tina Fey, I've always had held in high regard. I think she's a really talented lady, very, very sharp. And as I say, and you were talking about the pace of it. I mean, the pace of it I thought was great. It was very short scenes in the majority. It's very cartoon-like, isn't it, in the way that it's written? And I think, I might be completely wrong here, but I think when Tina Fey conceived this as an idea, I think she was heavily influenced by Family Guy because it's similar kind of writing. It's heavy use of the cutaway, which American audiences seem to, get upset if they don't have now. And similar kind of pacing. So it's just everything really, Adrian. I mean, I was really struggling to the only thing that really wound me up and annoyed me was that the show was called The Girly Show. Well, that was it. But
do you remember there actually was a Girly Show on Channel 4 years ago? And the reason it was on my cultural radar was not because I was a fan of the show, but it was actually made at BBC Television Centre, even though it was a Channel 4 show. It was made in Studio 4 where Ab Fab, Absolutely Fabulous, was made, amongst other shows, Jonathan Ross show when he was at the Beeb. And it was, I felt it was quite gross, but, Channel 4 seemed to... ruffling feathers, certainly then, if not, I don't know if they like it so much now, I'm not sure. They might be tiptoeing a bit more carefully these days.
Who was in that? I don't remember that, The Girly Show.
I can't remember, but that's quite significant in itself, I think. They were very self-important at the time, but hey, TV types. I don't think it was a cultural high water mark for British TV, or indeed any TV, of any genre, but yeah. Hey, but I putting that to one side, so a show can exist called The Girly Show. Whether it was a 30 Rock reference, actually it predates it, so I don't think, no, it can't be. When does this come from? About 2006, did I read? Or am I confusing me dates?
This is 2006, because I only know that because I looked at when Family Guy was. Family Guy started in 1999.
Oh, did it?
And this came 7 years later, so it would conceivably be influenced by. I think it's got it written all over it, but I might be wrong. I might be reading too much into the format. I don't know.
Right. Well, I'm delighted for you to really enjoy it because it's painful for me if I've set some homework that you then don't enjoy, and I feel it reflects badly on me. It may still reflect badly on me. I didn't enjoy it as much as you. Right. And I'm afraid it's a bit of a shopping list of things, but it sounds like it's one of those things, just because I wasn't sold on it, I can think of all the things that just didn't do it for me. I'm not an Alec Baldwin fan, and I'm especially not a fan of him, as he mostly does, speaking in his boots, and it just doesn't cut through because he doesn't give enough projection, which I would have thought for the remuneration he's on, he could at least give a bit more air.
It's realism, darling. It's realism. It's not going to stand there
TV,
like he's at the Globe
what's it got to do with reality? Yeah, but you still got to hear the words, and I just find I'm struggling in a way I don't feel I should have to. Call me old-fashioned. You can tell.
You want to get yourself off to boots, Grandad. That's what you want to do.
You what? Anyway, so there's that. Tina Fey, yeah, hugely talented. I feel she's constrained by the script, which might sound a bit odd.
She wrote it.
Yeah, exactly. Hoist by her own Peter D. Yeah. Yeah,
self-constrained.
There's no accounting for my views of anything, is there, or what happens in these scenarios? But she really took off when. Do you remember her taking off Sarah Palin?
Yes,
just a dead spit of her, and there was a sketch going around. It was quite cruel in a way, of her against someone impersonating Hillary Clinton. Don't know if that's ringing any bells. Did the rounds probably.
I'm not a big fan of Saturday Night Live. I must admit, it's one of my least things out of American comedy. I don't think it's very good at all.
Right.
Really.
We're not really going to agree on an awful lot here. I mean, look, it's obviously a highly polished show because that is on the plus side. If you like polish, Americans are exceptionally good at that. But I suppose I thought it was a clever device. I thought it might wind you up. I mean, the second black character who's part of the production team, it would appear, if I'm not
Twofer.
Yeah, something like that.
They call him Twofer, don't they?
Two for one offer.
You get 2 for 1. He's a black guy and he's a Harvard guy.
Very good, yes. Anyway, I felt he was there to puncture any potential criticism. Oh, hang on, we've got this major black character who turns out to be a bit thick. What are you saying about black people? When, of course, it's not about that. It's more generically, as you've been saying, it's about people who get on in showbiz aren't always the most bright in front of
I don't think
camera.
everybody thinks like that. I don't think everybody thinks to look for the racial.
Oh no, I don't think they should.
Do they?
I don't think they should. I wish I could approach these things. I wasn't actually particularly coming from. I was thinking more in terms of structure, and that's a kind of boring writerly talk I'm into these days.
It was just like, there were so many throwaway gags. I mean, Alec Baldwin was introducing Tracy to all the writers, and he said that's where that gag came. He said, we call him Twofer. He's 2 for 1, blah blah blah. And he went around the room and he said, this guy's so and so. He's got every back issue of Black Butts magazine or something. I don't know what that was. And then he got to the other guy and he went, this is JD Lutz, he's got a thyroid problem. It's
identifying characteristic.
And it reminded me of The Office when they're talking to Big Keith, aren't they? And he's going, what are your strengths and your weaknesses? He says, for your weaknesses, you put eczema.
That is a winning line.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I think I was
going to say, and there were just so many throwaway. They were having a conversation. Tina Fey's character having a conversation with Alec Baldwin's character. They're talking about Tracy, and she says, he's saying he's a nice guy, and she said, didn't he bit Dakota Fanning on the face? And Alec Baldwin says, well, when you hear his version, she was kind of asking for it. I really struggled to keep up with the pace of the gags and the quality of the gags, which is so unusual. When they're packing them in, normally it's like, it's all volume and no quality. But
I don't know. So it somehow seemed funnier when you delivered the line. I really don't want to polish your ego because goodness knows it doesn't need it. But actually, I think if we've been viewing it together, it's that sort of infectious laughter thing. If you've been giggling alongside me, then my perception might have been different. We should say there's no studio audience, so these gags aren't always hugely signposted, and it's actually delivered very dryly and throwaway, which at other times I love. So it's not a complaint to say that's the way it's delivered. It just it hadn't won me early on, so I fear I'm almost looking for faults. I'm going to park my shopping list there. I think that's sufficient.
I wonder if I'm the reverse then, because it grabbed me early on and I really liked everything I was seeing. That the more the momentum grew, the more I kind of got into it. And I mean, it was just, even the Tracy character who I would normally sneer at and think, oh, this is a bit puerile the way that they've done this. But she comes up to him and says, we need to do something. He said, let's crash my car and see if the airbags go off. She said, you need to listen to what I'm telling you. I love the way. I don't know. I just thought
where did that thought come from about airbags?
Well, to me, it's that kind of thing. I mean, have you never kind of got in your car and thought, I wonder what it's like when the airbags? Who is it talks about them going off in your face? Going off in your face. Alan Partridge.
It does sound like him. I was hoping we'd get through a whole show without referencing him.
No, not a chance. He's too embedded in the comedic landscape, isn't he? But should we have another clip?
Yes. If I could only remember what it's all about. Oh, it's the Tina Fey character, Ms. Lemon, talking to Tracy. Johnny Cash sung about a boy named Sue. We're dealing with a boy named Tracy here. I was confused the other day. I've been emailing someone called Jordan, imagining a bloke, and then imagine my surprise when she pops up on Zoom. But Jordan is usually a female name, isn't it?
Yeah,
apart from being the name of a country.
Yeah, it's either a country or a female, isn't it, normally, yeah.
Katie Price was a Jordan, was she not?
I do wonder where you get to sometimes, I don't.
It's not a healthy place, let me just point out.
It can't be.
They're not doing tours there, and nor should they.
No.
Although there was a tour guide. Did you like the tour guide? Sorry, before we go into our second clip.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see, before I pass judgment on him, I'd like to see more, because I thought, he has the potential to be a little bit annoying and possibly unrealistic, a bit too much. But I mean, what I saw of him, I did quite like, actually. I mean, I kind of, it's that kind of yardstick, isn't it? Are there people out there that you've known and you've met? And if they are, then they kind of feel like believable characters. And if there aren't, then you kind of think, there isn't anybody out there like that. But there probably is, isn't there?
Well, I've met them and worked with them. Right. Yeah, that was quite something. So he got the deference to the star quite good, I thought.
And there was a lovely touching scene as well, wasn't there, where he said something like he was kind of being told off, and he said, "I can't help it, I just love TV."
And he talked about the show business, which I thought that was a lovely. That was a nice line. Just that one word marks him out as not quite a member of the show business fraternity. Anyway, where was I? So it's the Tina Fey character talking to to Tracy Jordan and getting herself into hot water. Oh, that's another thing. Sorry, that will come back. My shopping list will return after we hear this second clip.
Lunch break. That's a lunch break. Back in 30 minutes.
Tracy, I hope I didn't hurt your feelings before.
Please, you can't hurt me. I just stand up on the road. Crowd once threw a motorcycle at me.
Good, because, I'm just trying to calm Jana down because she's kind of paranoid and neurotic, and your being here is just bringing out all of her crazy. And please don't think that everyone hates you, right? Pete thinks that everybody's an idiot, especially Frank, who is an idiot. Josh is just jealous because you're going to get more screen time than him, and Toofer's just afraid of black people.
Which one is Toofer?
The black guy. My point is, don't worry about them. You are the only person that the network cares about.
Miss Lemon, I just want to let you know, y'all are on the monitors right now.
Everyone can
hear you and see you. Yes, ma'am.
Son of a mother!
Paranoid? Well, that just confirms all my suspicions.
I mean, this is the second stab she's had at this joke as well, isn't it? Because she's already been caught on a hot mic.
Well, that's where my shopping list comes back. But you're so seduced by the show that you buy that.
Has it never happened to you?
No. And sound people wouldn't. I mean, it's quite insulting to sound people that we would sit there with, just scratching our whatevers and leaving faded up something that's quite obviously personal. But I appreciate it's a gag. It will sound like I've got no sense of humour, as so often is the case. I hear it myself, which is a bizarre thing when you work on a show called The Comedy Slab. But you could cope with not one but two really quite laboured coincidences.
Well, yeah. I mean, it isn't a coincidence. If you work in a broadcast area, I mean, it's happened so many times. And I guess, as you said, she worked on Saturday Night Live. She was a writer on Saturday Night Live, and in that very building that she's parodying now, and you kind of think this is not something, I think, that comes largely from her imagination. I think it largely comes from her experience. And he's caught out the best of them. I mean, you look at poor old Gordon Brown. and that
Poor old
and that
Gordon
bigoted woman.
Yeah, but that was a politician who didn't have a huge degree of awareness.
Oh, behave yourself. They have media training. Although, when you get to that
Well,
level,
he clearly
they probably
didn't
have media
have the
training
awareness,
on a weekly
though.
basis. You know,
Yeah, but I don't think in a studio, when you're working in a studio week after week, you develop a sixth sense. I don't think that would happen. But hey,
I disagree, because I think the other thing is as well, her job. I mean, her job is to pull everything together, rather than to be on screen or be recorded. I mean, I thought it was nice. It wasn't her mic, was it? That's the point, is that she did it in a clever way, because when she was caught on the hot mic, it was actually on the other woman. It wasn't on hers. And she went, why didn't you tell me you got... So, that was the first thing. And the second time round, it was just the cameras were still on and she was stood in front of a camera.
with a red light on it. I mean, you'd have to be pretty slow, not if you're in the biz. Anyway. Again, if I'd fallen in with the show like you did, I would have forgiven it, as you clearly have. But
it never really occurred to me. I didn't think, oh, that's awful. I just thought, I kind of, and it's that frustration, the way she expresses the frustration at the end, like not caught once but caught twice. She's only trying to do the right thing and tell people what they wanted to hear. Yeah,
so you found it extra funny. I found it extra unbelievable because she hasn't learned from the first time, literally minutes before. But hey, clearly I've had a sense of humour bypass and should be punished for it. It's just that, as you know, I never mention the book I'm working on at the moment, but I agonise over every coincidence, and there are going to be coincidences, but then coincidences do happen. But it seems she doesn't seem to agonise in quite the same way when writing the script. Oh, we'll have that one.
That's really weird because my wife said to me earlier that coincidences do happen.
What are the chances of that? You having a wife?
I don't know.
That's
Is it Lee Mack, I think, on his stand-up routine, and he said, you couldn't write this stuff, could you? Well, you could, I did. It's that kind of, well, it isn't real life, is it? Because if it was real life, it'd be boring, and it probably wouldn't be funny all the while. And so you have to have a degree of shunting time into itself and ridiculous things happening. It's like you kind of think, well, why doesn't Oliver Hardy learn that Stan Laurel is an idiot and not hang around with him anymore? Because if he didn't, there'd be no show. He'd
be a no-show.
Yeah.
But, well, neither of them's that bright, are they? So they never quite escape the clutches of each other.
Maybe that's what it is, yeah. But do you know what I mean? It's that you have to... surely there's got to be a bit of latitude with things like that. But
I know.
I take your point. I mean, I know what you mean. If you're annoyed at that point, that would annoy you, wouldn't it?
Exactly. This is the problem. Yeah. So this is why it will sound like sour grapes. So I should probably bite my tongue. I think we can put off the evil hour no longer. And actually, people might be pleasantly surprised, given how much I've been whinging, what score I'll give it. Would you like me to go first?
Yeah, go on.
Put you out of your miserliness. I am going to give it 3 out of 5 because I don't want to rubbish it, even though it might sound like that. You always hurt the one you love, or whatever the phrase is, and there's lots to like, as I said, and it has. I suppose I'm setting the bar high because I had high expectations of Tina Fey and of the show. And those high expectations haven't quite been met. But in the absolute world, if one can ever mark anything absolutely, probably shouldn't attempt it, but I'm going to. I think, it's not the worst of the worst by any means. It's a respectable thing. So 3 out of 5 from me.
Okay. 4 out of 5 from me because, pleasantly surprised that something that people bang on about. I've heard people say, "Oh, it's 30 Rock." I mean, I would put it up there. For me, it's on a par. Well, and this is just after one episode, so let's not get carried away. I'm going to watch some.
You
more.
Have got carried away.
Yeah, maybe I have, but it's on a par with Curb for me. I mean, I really like Curb.
That's not a show called Curb, but it's Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Curb Your Enthusiasm, yeah. And I kind of. A tidy piece of work. Very, very impressed. Very pleasantly surprised. very enjoyable. 30 minutes just went like that. Absolutely.
Right.
So 7 out of 10 for 30 Rock. Good suggestion, mate. Good suggestion, though. I've got to hand it to you. You know.
Actually, I think I credited my girlfriend for it last week, which is true, so I should do the same again if I know what's good for me.
She did. It's a really good call, that was. Yeah, tell her I'm a convert and give it a couple of weeks and I'll probably be able to quote every episode. It doesn't be boring like that.
Oh, my word. Yeah. What Frankensteinian monster has she created?
I know. I mean, it was bad enough before, wasn't it, really? Let's face it. I mean,
it wasn't good. Wasn't good. No, I'm very pleased because that's what Comedy Slab should all be about, discovering some really good quality work. So we can tick that particular box for you at least. Okay,
so I'll bring the tone right down for next week then.
As you always do.
And I am going to go, I mean, really, I would have thought the theme tune for this, I can't remember whether it does have a theme tune or not. I'm going radio, by the way.
Lovely.
And was it the Smiths who had a song called, was it something Man in a Coma or something? Or
Girlfriend in a Coma.
Girlfriend in a Coma, yeah. This is Man in a Coma radio show. Does that give you anything?
So that's not the title of it, but that's what goes on.
Yes.
It's ringing a vague bell, but I don't know whether I was in a coma at the time. And
if I introduce you to Mr. Neil Pearson, would that help you at all? Would that help give you a title for this?
I can't remember the title, but I think I've heard, guess what, one of the episodes.
You've heard one episode, yeah, of course you have. Of course you have. I'm going for radio series, and I'm going to be predictable. I'm going for series 1, episode 1. I think there were 2 or 3 series. I'll have to check for next week. Stars Neil Pearson, who I must admit, I'll be honest with you, I've always, if it's got Neil Pearson in, I'm in. I think he's very listenable, very watchable. And it's called Vent, and it's about a man in a coma on a ventilator in hospital. And perhaps unsurprisingly, this episode 1 is called "Wake Me Up Before You Go Go."
So we know we're ticking the box for tastefulness.
Black humour is definitely the order of the day. So that's next week's homework. Vent, Series 1, Episode 1, Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, starring Neil Pearson, is what we'll have on the slab. Well, let's hope we don't have it on the slab, otherwise it means the episode's all gone wrong, doesn't it, really? But that's what we're going to be looking at for next week.
Yes, indeed. I suppose we can only stretch the imagery so far. Right, am I doing anti-social media? I guess I am at this point. Good as any point, which is to say, do follow us on Twitter. We are at Comedy Slab, naturally enough, he and me, and also it's the same handle at Comedy Slab for Facebook. We have a Facebook page. If you could like that and follow us on Twitter, as I say, that would be fantastic. Do recommend us to friends and family, and a nice, healthy sort of star rating on Apple Podcast / iTunes. That would be fabulously warmly received too. Thank you in advance.
And don't forget all the glorious back catalogue of the Comedy Slab. And what's that? 100 and
we're on 186.
Wow, 185 episodes queued up behind us. So if you're thinking, wow, that was amazing, you can go and listen to the other ones. Or indeed, if you're thinking, I can't believe these two people have actually managed to do that many episodes, go and listen to them.
Yeah,
we don't mind.
Prove it.
Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Even if they are the same thing, who knows? And all good chemists
bookshops
in the high street.
Yes. Do you know what I'm thinking?
Go on.
What would be 14 episodes away from now, and already I'm worrying about it. Like Morecambe and Wise used to worry in April about the Christmas show.
The Christmas show, yeah. I think they had a lot more riding on that than we have riding on this, though. Don't you?
Well, you say that. That.
Yes.
But what am I worrying about now? I did give you a clue, if you can do the math, which clearly you can't.
What to get me from Christmas?
14 episodes from now.
Yeah.
Do I mean 14? I do.
Yeah.
You're worrying me about my maths.
Well, it's 13, isn't it, if you talk about it? Because I've already chosen next week's.
Oh, fair dues. Okay.
Fair dues all round now. Fair dues.
Fair dues. But it falls in my lap does it not? To
the 200th episode?
Yes.
Yeah.
What we're going to
Better
put
be
on
good.
the El Slabo.
Better be good.
And because of the way we do this and alternating, I'm always going to end up with the big numbers, aren't I? It being an even number.
No pressure, better be good. Otherwise, it'll all be like Morecambe and Wise going to Thames Television. And you know how that ended.
Yeah.
With the credits and the date, I think it was.
And a copyright.
Thank you very much for your company. If you've managed to stick with us right through to the end, wow, you have got some staying power, haven't you? I'm off to go and crash Adrian's car to see if his airbags go off.
And that's not a euphemism. And I'm going to use the phrase "relax your balls" and see if it can actually be done, which is nice.